Hey folks, we are back. It is Kristin and Tracy here, bringing you Homeless to Billionaire by Andres Pira. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And we are in part 4 of this amazing book. The last 4 principles, I guess, or the last 5 principles. We're going through principle 13 through 18. Kristin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
I'm alive and well, standing.
That's always a plus.
I know,
That's always
right?
a plus. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Principle 13 through 18. We are concluding this book today, correct?
Yes. So there's a couple other episodes before this. I highly, highly recommend. This is a really good book.
It is. Let's start with number 13. Do you know what it is?
Fit body, stronger mind.
Totally your area of expertise.
Why would you say that?
Because that's how you live your life.
It is.
Yes.
I got to tell you, when you're not able to do it, you miss it. And when you're doing it, you get kind of addicted to it. All that fun biochemistry happening inside. And then you get to the point where you're just either trying to keep up with somebody or you just don't want to fall apart. Like, you know, I that's the best way I can put it. I don't know what I would do. And then there's all the research behind staying in shape, and not just physically, right? Like not just from the ears down, but between the ears is probably the most important place to start.
Yeah. Actually, the thing that got me in this chapter or this section was this John Rady. He's an MD, I guess a leading expert in this space. But he says that exercise is the single most powerful tool that you can use to optimize your brain power. And I'd never heard that before, but it's key. And I had to look back at my life, as I always do, and see how does this apply, and did I notice this growing up? And I most certainly have noticed a huge difference as I've gotten older and more out of shape due to a variety of reasons. But my mental acuity, sharpness, clear-headedness, all of that was way better. Not necessarily when I was younger, but when I was at the peak of my physical performance, the peak of my physical conditioning. And I do remember that, and I miss that. And I remember being able to, even throughout my day, do just about everything and anything that I tackled. It was just like I had so much energy, and I want to get back to that. And that was actually in my late 30s, early 40s when I was at the peak of my physical conditioning, right before I ended up with that darn blood clot that took me out. So, yeah.
But you're bouncing back.
I am.
You're pushing yourself pretty hard again. Can you tell a difference?
Yeah. Aside from the fact that I've had this chest cold for the last little bit that's been hanging on and really tearing me down. So it's a hard
winter and
it's hard because I'm getting up at 2:20 in the morning to go to the gym, and it's just the schedule that I'm on because of when the stock market opens and when my husband leaves for work and how I'm coordinating doing all of the things that I need to get done and getting it done before I start my day. So it's early, but it's taking a little bit of a toll on me. So I need to kind of, I don't know, we'll see. But it's definitely making a difference. I'm certainly feeling stronger and more energetic. But I do want to say this, and it's something that I've been teaching my son on a regular basis. If you are listening to this and you are young and you're in shape, it is so much easier to stay in shape while you're in shape and just continue to maintain it. It is way easier to do that than it is to try and go from out of shape to in shape, especially when you get older. So just keep that in mind. It is a priority. And that's one of the other things that he mentions, that successful people make physical conditioning and make physical health a priority. And it is so true. So yeah. What did you have to say about this chapter? Because I suspect nothing's new in this area for you.
No, I think one of the things I got out of it was, it's just grounding back in, and the other parts, there's just so much research, and I guess I just happen to just be in a particular type of field where I get to see a lot of that research. I feel like a lot of people don't read that research, but just don't even bother. Just do it for now, do it for tomorrow, do it for the next 5 years. Do it now, because of what you want your body and your brain and your life and your lifestyle to look like 10 years from now. 10 years from now, because we are who we are and what we are from the things our body has been going through and our mind has been going through 5 years before now, 10 years before now. So look ahead. Don't just look 3 months ahead, just look ahead. And so you could thwart off quite a bit of illnesses. I mean, we're a little bit older, so we're looking at ahead, like that's not that far away. But those, like you said, those that are younger, stay with it and don't fall off that wagon. My son's in his mid-20s, and just like you said, it's hard to get back on that. I used to be in shape, used to be athletic, so make it happen. Bite-sized steps. Miracle Morning just says, gosh, man, just do 5 minutes, just do 7 minutes. And then you get a little addicted and you'll make the 7 minutes, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then, so you just start small.
I'll tell you that going to the gym early in the morning, especially, if you've not getting a great sleep, whatever, one of the things that I'm challenging myself with doing is going, even if I'm not going to work out. And that's just so even if I'm feeling like I really can't do this, I just don't have the energy to do it, I go anyway. And I'll spend some time doing whatever, even if I go and I haven't done this yet, but maybe read a book. But I'm just saying go anyway, because the habit of going gets you there on a regular basis. And then at some point, the habit of actually doing while you're there can be implemented. So that's what we mean by baby steps. There's little ways that you can kind of hack your body so that it gets accustomed to doing certain things. And that's one of them. So even if you go and you ride the bike for 20 minutes, you're at the gym, you went through the motions of getting yourself up and getting there. And that's a great step in the right direction. So yeah, for sure.
Agree.
All right. Principle number 14, which is pay more, give more, keep more. What on earth does that mean?
Oh boy. Well, I think he's all over the map with this one, right? Because he's talking about employees. I think is this where he's talking about tipping also?
I think he mentions
the other chapter.
He mentions a bit about tipping, but this particular section was primarily about paying for things, paying for employees. And you can even go to, he mentioned something in there about scraping the bottom of the barrel. And if you pay little, so if you pay your employees little, because a lot of the perspective from this book is about business and running a business, which is fine and dandy, but all of those things can be attributed to your life in other ways. But having a business and then hiring people and then paying them minimum wage, what is that saying? You're scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're getting the basics. You're not creating an environment for people to think that they're worth more. And what he's saying is pay people so that they actually feel their value. And in addition to that, you can also hold them accountable or hold them to a higher standard because you're paying them well. And that goes on to show studies that have been proven that people that feel valued in their business, they're going to do more things. So if it's in a customer-based business, your customers are going to feel the rewards of that because the people that are there are actually going to feel the value, feel like they're making some change, and they're going to be happy, which is going to fall back onto the customer. And if it's a non-customer or a non-customer relationship type of business where it's behind the scenes, you're going to get more productivity out of anyone that feels better about their job, right?
Yeah.
Have you, sure. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. What you pay somebody, they need to see value in that, or that you value them. And it's funny because I actually thought about, like, when you go out to eat, when you go out to a really nice restaurant, or that restaurant already has it's kind of expensive to eat there, you value that experience more, and the time spent there can be significantly better. And so I just think about different restaurants in this town where they're all different price points, right? And so you get different experiences. And I think it's no different with humans. Like, depending on what you're paying for them. Like, yeah, of course you could get ripped off, and all that stuff. But in the end, I think value and money, money is just an energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a form of energy. So knowing your worth, if you're the employee and you're reading this, it's a little bit, if your boss isn't, there's different ways to look at this, I think. And it is profound, and it is a good topic to have in this book, as far as it is kind of a business book, because he went from nothing to, multi businesses. But I think about who I'm paying right now, and I expect a lot, and I'm pretty easygoing, and I take the time to train, but I pay well. So I hope they see the value, and then extra, around the holidays. So yeah, I think it makes the employer feel good, not just the employee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Curious about I guess this is kind of a side topic, but with regard to, like, for instance, restaurant workers or any industry where they're getting a base salary and then relying on tips to kind of tap up their industry. Now, just a thought, but because my experience or my view feels and it's been through my experiences, that a lot of that service industry, you get really shoddy service, but there's kind of an entitled anticipation that you will tip regardless of the kind of service you get. And I'm curious if that's because the employer themselves are actually paying them a very low value, and they're putting the onus on the customer to make the employee feel valued. And I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons that you get that poor customer experience. And I'm not saying that that's everywhere, because I get great customer service with some people, and I tip very well when I get great customer service. But for the most part, the majority, especially in some of those lower priced point jobs, the service is just poor. But like I said, the expectation, they're still getting paid well when you put in all the tips and you count the kind of tips that they're making. I know some of them are making very good money, but they're not putting the customer first. So I'm just curious if there's what your thought is, if there was a spin, if the employer actually paid them more and there was less reliance on tips, would that customer or would that employee feel more value because it's kind of guaranteed and put more onus on the customer? I don't know. Just the thought that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like meet in the middle, because if there's tipping involved, I think you would put a higher expectation on somebody if you were paying them above the normal, above the average.
Yeah.
So when I was told, my daughter is looking for a hostess position to eventually go into a serving position while she's up at college, I was told by someone else that knows a lot about this company, is that they pay their hostesses more than the average hostess. And they are involved in the tip share because nobody busses. It's a team effort. So I think, with that said, I think there's a higher expectation from that individual also. And they're more respected. They want that job. And right now, I don't know about where you are, but there's so many job openings still.
Tons.
That aren't being, I don't understand it. So which ones are, so if there's a lot of options for jobs right now, where would you go? Would you go to those lower ones, or would you go knowing where you're going to make more? But you're going to have to show up, right? And keep your job.
Well,
you have to be of value.
Yeah, exactly. And as it mentions is here, that money isn't always, it's not the only catalyst that is a deciding factor for people. So the culture is definitely there, and money helps speak to the value that you might put on yourself. But the rest of that, there's other ways of actually making somebody feel valued. And we'll get into that with, I think it's number 16, principle number 16. We'll get into that. In fact, we can just jump into that right now.
Yeah, just jump into it now, because we're kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So principle number 16, he talks about investing in your employees. And when you invest in employees, you can do that in more ways than just financial. You can invest in what they're interested in doing. You can invest in them by communication, by showing interest, by encouraging them or giving them mentoring or direction on how to help them achieve some of their goals. Because and even he talks about here, setting goals, helping employees set goals, which is an investment in your employee, making sure that they have goals for themselves. Like, wow. Have you ever worked for somebody that does that?
No, I haven't. But now that you say that, it'd be really interesting to have like quarterly, when you're doing, I don't know, when people sit down with their employee and kind of just go over things. But even if you did quarterly, at the least, pieces of the wheel of life, right? Like, let's sit down and talk about fitness. And then 3 months later, we'll talk about mindset. And 3 months later, we'll talk about budgeting. And like, so you could be mentoring them and you're adding that value.
Right.
But they're getting better as a human being too. Right.
I've worked with companies that'll sit down and do a review on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis, whatever. But it's always a performance based, like this is how you're performing. There's been no goal setting there. It was never, so it was more of a defense
company goal setting, but not like, let me show you how to goal set for your year or whatever.
Well, it's more of a, your graduation. This is your final test. You got to sit in front of your boss, and your boss tells you whether or not you're going to get a raise, not get a raise, get fired, or whether you keep your job. Like there's some stress that's associated with it. Very different. Until I was working with real life trading, that's about the first time I've had an employer that has ever shown an interest, would sit down with you and talk about your goals. What do you want to do? And then help you achieve those goals on top of it. So very unique perspective. Yeah. Very different from any of the employment that I've ever had in my life. So for sure. Absolutely.
I think I'll use this little aspect. And now that we talked about it, because one of the girls that's helping me, I can call her a girl. She's 19, just moving into womanhood, so to speak. But I think this is a good idea to share some of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that goes back to digressing to 15, which is perfect mimicking and mentorship. What stood out with that for you?
Well, just see one, do one, right? The people that you achieve or that you aspire to be, they've done it already. So do what they've done. That's basically the gist of it, right? And if you can't figure out what they've done, hire a mentor. Get a mentor, find a mentor. You can get mentors through books. You can get mentors by coaching, through friends, colleagues, networking. There's a variety of different ways you can get mentorship. Some's paid, some is free. But the other thing, when you invest in mentorship, you've got skin in the game and you're more likely to do what they say. So there's some accountability that can play a part with that. But that's the gist of it, right? So mimicking. And I attribute a lot of my characteristics and behaviors to mimicking people around me, because we do it from the time we're young, right? We've been doing it naturally. We mimic our parents. Absolutely. We mimic our parents. We mimic our friends. We copy them. We do things. And as we get older, we have a little bit more discernment and capabilities of deciding whether or not that's a good characteristic, whether it's serving us or whether it's not serving us. And that's really, your filter system as you grow up. So, keep going. We
should really be teaching kids. I mean, I know I've taught my teenager, and I'm sure you've had talks with yours about, like, you need to be very careful who you're hanging out with, who you're spending your time with. And not just that, like, what are you filling your head with? What kind of music, what kind of books, what kind of social media are you looking at and following?
I think I mentioned to you that I put my son on a challenge where...
Yeah, the book challenge?
Yeah, how's that going? So it's good. So I've basically, for all the listeners out there that are interested, but I challenge them to pick a book, and I have a list of, like, I think it's up to like 300 books now of books.
Let's back up. Let's go slow, because parents are listening now. So you created a list.
I created a list of I started with 160. I'm up to about 300 books now in the categories of mindset, wealth, and fitness. So they're basically the type of books that we cover in this podcast. I created a list. I gave the list to him and I said, pick a book. And if you read it in a week, you get paid $20. If you read it within 2 weeks, you get paid $10. And if you read it within 3 weeks, you get paid $5. And if it takes you longer than that, you don't get paid. But you can tally it as considered read. And when you graduate, the number of read books, I'll give you a bonus. So that's basically it. Now, in order to know whether he's actually read it, he has to give me 3 takeaways from the book by the deadline to qualify for which pay scale that he's going to get. And
can he give you takeaways as he's reading it?
No.
Like this, so he has to remember the 3. Okay, so
he
that's
has to remember
good.
the 3. And not only does he have to give me the takeaways, but that starts a conversation with him where he can then start to, I'll ask him questions like, how can you apply this to your life? Like, how would you want to, like, how does this work for you? And getting him thinking outside the box more, because a lot of people, they can learn things and they can replicate what they might learn in those exact environments. But it's really a skill set to be able to take that knowledge and apply it in other areas that are different from maybe the way that you might have seen it before. So I'll give you an example. As he was reading the David Goggins book, You Can't Hurt Me. And he was talking about, some of the things that he was doing in the military. And from my son's perspective, he's not in the military. He'd never be in that situation. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing where you could apply that principle? And he was able to attribute it to music. And that was able to transfer that knowledge into something different. And that's a skill set that I'm helping him develop. But the point being is I'm not worried about who he's hanging out with because I know he's got a really strong head on his shoulders. And I tell you, when we've had conversations about hanging out with more people or getting more friends and this and that. And he's the first one to say, he's the first one to say, like, seriously, this person's just not even at my level. Like right. He's so much more mature and growing at a fast pace that it's hard for him to really find people at his age group. He's going to have to wait till he's in college. It's
funny that you say that because I was just going to tell you, because my daughter just did her first semester up at college.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even like 6-7 weeks there when she's in an apartment and all her friends are in the dorms. So she's in the dorms a lot on campus. And so she's like, she knows that all these kids are her same age. And she's like, these kids are just dumb. They're just doing stupid stuff and they're just so immature. And so
that's
I tell
funny.
You that, and I tell everybody that we also have to keep in mind that, because she was a junior finishing her junior year during COVID, and then most of her senior year was online. And then I think that withdrawal, because she missed the social aspect.
Yeah.
But when the social aspect came back, and then it came back full force, right? In a college setting, kids from everywhere, she's like, whoa. And so she's being very picky on who she's hanging out with and that kind of stuff. So and I don't know if that really changes, Tracy, between like then we're in our 20s and then we're in our 30s. And
yes, but there's more at each of those levels. You gain access to more individuals that are going to be like you.
Maybe.
Possibly. Yes.
Unless
that's
you
my
work
hope.
From home.
Yes.
Full-time trader.
Yes.
Who has flooding and massive snowstorms and ice storms, who doesn't get to go out that much.
Yes. Fair enough. But you've tooled your daughter up the same as I've tooled my son up to have that strong sense of value for themselves, because that's really what it comes down to.
It's hard.
Is teaching them what's important so that they can start valuing themselves from an early age. And when you start to value yourself, that's where you start to care about what you're consuming.
Yep.
From reading to listening to music to who you hang out with to what you watch on television, whatever it might be, to what you're doing with your body. It all comes down to valuing. How many people out there have bought this really expensive car and they're out washing it every day and they're vacuuming it every day and they're just taking really good care of it versus a beat up junker. And they call it a junker. You go out and buy a junker and you don't care about the junker. You don't take care of the maintenance. You don't do anything with it because it's a junker, right? The value is not there. So that's what it comes down to. But anyway, enough on that.
So that's, no. I mean, the next chapter is 17, which is like value positivity over results. And then it's interesting that he just threw gossip in there. You're right. So gossip is not positivity, right? And a lot of people gossip and they don't realize they do. And that kind of like, I got a thing with that. I really, really do. And I don't know where that came from for me. Like, why do I struggle with gossiping? Because I'm not the one that'll call somebody out on it. I just don't like it or don't participate in it. So it wasn't like someone told me, like in this book, that gossip's bad. I don't know where it came from, but it does happen, and it happens blatantly, and that's not age, determinant either. So
it doesn't feel good to be on the other side of it. So why would you do it to somebody else, right? That's the reality of it. And I suspect that's probably where I learned it is at some point in my life, knowing or hearing somebody talk about me behind my back felt terrible. And I don't ever want people to feel like that, ever, because I don't have that kind of a bone in my body where I would want somebody to feel miserable, right?
Yep.
So not at my hands anyway, right? And it doesn't, it also, I think, because you and I have a very add value attitude where we're always trying to add value, and gossip doesn't add value. There's no value involved in it. So you and I are less likely to participate in that type of behavior because we're always looking for things that add value. And when we're around things that aren't adding value, we're very quick to make that shift and find something that is. And it's not necessarily an identification, oh, they're gossiping right now, I'm not going to do that. And it's high and mighty. It's like, you know what, I could spend my time doing something different right now. I really don't need to be doing this. I've got a lot of stuff on my plate right now. I'm going to go do this. Right?
It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just funny because sometimes you and I have been developing more into meaningful conversations. And so I become socially awkward in large environments with large groups when I just can't seem to gel with whatever's happening. Like, let's play a game, let's play dominoes or something. Let's just and it's just it's so strange to just look at that now. And then, you and I have both had opportunities of spending really, quality time with quality people. And that's not the right words, but like to have meaningful conversations. And you just you could be up all night with those kind of conversations sometimes. So
yeah, it's people on the same growth journey that you're on. That's
look for those
difference.
people.
Yeah.
Look for those people.
Well, look for the people that you want. If you make sure they're ahead of you, right? You want to follow
you don't want
them
to be
down
the smartest person in the room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm never the smartest person in the room. I'll tell you that right now.
There
so Tracy, I'm sorry you're hanging out with me.
I'm glad I'm hanging out with you. So, no, it's good.
Hey, if you can't be smart, be funny. I'm just if somebody somewhere probably said that, and if they hadn't, I'm going to say it right now.
We offer our own intelligence in different areas, our own expertise in different areas. So that's all it is.
There you go.
All right. So principle 18, this is the last one for this book, is do, be, go, have. Oh my goodness. Do, be, go, have. What on earth could that possibly mean? Any ideas for you?
Do, be, go, have.
Do, be, go, have.
Help me.
Well, it's really about living to work, not working to live.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah.
You'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Go, be, have, do all that stuff. So he discovered early that you don't need to travel very far to live your life to the fullest. And the other thing that was a big takeaway from me is to not use those terms. There's still time, right? So don't say there's still time or next time, because there's also, it's too late. And, it's
we'll
a different
next
perspective.
Year or I get it. Yep.
Yeah. Cause it's a different twist on things. Like I've always looked at, okay, well, I didn't get it done now. There's always tomorrow. I'm not going to let it stop me because I didn't get it done today. I'll keep going. But I really liked that little twist on there, because you're right. You don't want to procrastinate. You don't want to just keep pushing off what you were going to do today to tomorrow, because tomorrow may not come, or some other catastrophe might step in the way and keep you from reaching the goal that you were wanting to reach. You had the time when you were there, and it's too late. Yeah. And I know that as a teenager, at some point in your life, you probably felt like, there's always tomorrow, right? You felt like that. And as you've aged, that realization that, oh, dang, I wish I could take that back, because now I'm feeling like it's a little bit too late.
Yeah. Or you're just like making a decision that I'm going to live life to the fullest. And I'm a planner. So I'm planning like, what's the next adventure?
Mm-hmm.
That's my personality. And that's my personality. And to do those adventures, you have to have a mindset, make clear decisions while you're traveling. And to travel, you need to be physically healthy. And to be physically healthy, you have to do stuff now, like today.
Yes.
Yeah. So everything plays together, right?
Yep.
And you need the money to travel. So you need to be working, which means you need to be bringing value. And you don't want to hate your job, which means you need to love your job.
Exactly.
Right? So your job, you know, I hate the term just above.
I don't work.
You do have a job.
Nope, I don't work.
You're a wife, you're a mother, and you're a trader, and you're a mentor, and you're a coach.
And not one of those is a job.
I see.
Not one of those is a job to me.
You're just doing what you love. Got it.
Yes, I am doing exactly what I love.
I have lots of passions.
Yes, I have loads of passions.
And most of them I get paid for.
Exactly. That's exactly it. No,
okay, got it.
It's funny, right? But you and I are both kind of close to the 50-ish age. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Some closer than others.
Yes. We're going to make the last 50 years of our lives. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm only halfway through my life. And just as long as I've been alive, I have all that time left. It's going to be the best part of my life. And I'm pretty sure yours is going to be the best part of your life as well. Right?
Yeah. And what's interesting is if we look in history, a lot of people had massive success and most fulfilled parts of their lives past 50. And I had to really like hear that as 50 has come and gone.
I think all of our listeners have to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, but what's interesting is as I was getting ready to turn 50, I think the people like at my office, the patients that were coming in and, you know, talking about my 50th and know that my birthday's coming, I had at least 5-6 women that just kind of looked at me and said, my 50s were the best time. I loved my 50s. And these are women that are over 60 now. So knowing those couple things like that really inspire me to just keep going after what I'm really passionate about and not hold back like anywhere. But the biggest thing that I think I've learned from people 50 and over is that they're healthier when they're doing two things: being happy, no matter what, finding joy and gratitude and happiness, no matter what, and exercising.
Look at you with the knowledge bombs. That's the key to Fountain of Youth right there.
Yeah. And you can't exercise if you feel like crap and if you feel like crap because of what you're eating. So you'll start changing that. So to me, it's being physically fit and really working, making the effort and being happy.
Wonderful. What's our next book?
Oh, shoot. Hold on.
Peak Minds.
Peak Mind. That's right. You gave me 2 choices and I picked that one, didn't I?
Yes.
I'm kind of glad because I went and I Googled her and she's got TED Talks. It is a woman, right?
Yep.
So she's got TED Talks and stuff. So I'm super excited because I think it's about focus.
Yes. And this was another recommendation by one of our listeners. So shout out to Deanna for suggesting this book, but we are going to be reading it for this podcast. So
and then hopefully have Deanna on with us.
Yeah, we'll reach out to her and see if she'll join us. Yeah, I'd love to.
So, okay, good.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll catch you guys next week.